Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sean Blyle, excuse me, from the MembersFirst Client Development Team. It's right about 1 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started on the webinar, which will be introducing the MembersFirst digital sign. Thank you for taking the time out of your Friday. Hopefully we'll go through a few of these slides and jump into a quick demo, as well as answer any questions that you have about this offering. So let's start off with a little bit of housekeeping. So everybody is using GoToWebinar. Now, most of you have probably used this in the past. However, just a few housekeeping tips. This webinar, we're going to go through a series of PowerPoint slides. However, everybody will be muted throughout the presentation. Now, what I'll do is I'll go through the presentation and then save a bunch of time at the end to answer any questions that you have. You can submit questions within the GoToWebinar module. On the right-hand side, you should be able to expand or collapse that module so you can see more of the screen. And then within the module, you are able to ask questions, and then I will answer those at the end. So without further ado, let's jump in and take a look at the MembersFirst digital sign. Now, where does it start off, though? Usually what I have found working with a lot of membership directors, communications people at our clubs, typically members never know what's going on at the club, right? You can hit them over the face with with flyers. You can put things on your mobile apps. You can also put things on the website. You can send them multiple emails. You can do just about everything besides fly a plane with a banner image across saying, please join our event. However, even though MembersFirst is a digital agency, we also believe in providing easy content for members to see as they walk through the property. And where have you seen digital signs in your own lives? One, you've seen them probably at airports, whether it's to find out if your flight is delayed or on time, or to find out what's happening in that local region. You also probably see them at conferences. When you go to a hotel that has plenty of conferences or plenty of events that are going on, they tell you what's happening that day and where and which location it's going to be happening in. You also see them when you're driving on the highway. So you see these items, these types of digital signs all over the place. Now, it means that we can now have this opportunity to bring it to your club. It's just one other touch point for you to be able to help your members know what's going on at the club in order to increase participation. So that introduces the MembersFirst digital sign. We've been working on this for a little bit, and what we wanted to do, the brainchild behind the digital sign, is that we didn't want to have your administrators have to update content in 2 spots. So you're already spending a lot of time creating those weekly emails, creating the content for your website, posting things on social media, all those different areas that you're covering to provide good content to your membership in order to increase engagement. Well, as you're doing that, what we want to be able to do is allow you to just tag content and then have that appear on your digital sign throughout the clubhouse. Now, this is our most common layout for the digital sign. On the left, you'll see that we've got kind of the calendar of events that are coming up, the locations where those events are going to be held, and then also the time. In addition to our insert highlights over here on the right-hand side, where you could talk a little bit about some photos, some content, and then have a scrollable area for things to navigate through and find out what other pieces of content are happening as members are navigating your clubhouse. Now, this isn't the only layout that you have a choice of. Our designers work very hard on creating custom components so that we could create something that fits the needs of your club. So what we did is we went ahead and created 4 additional layouts that you have to choose from. Now, these layouts could consist of very similar content, such as over here on the left, we've got the calendar of events, we've got a rotating photo gallery, in addition to weather. Now, the weather could be just today's weather, the next 3 days, the 5 days, an hourly forecast, anything like that. Or, going over here to the top right, instead of using those calendar of events, a lot of clubs love to be able to put in their own flyers. You add flyers whether you create them through our global stock library template, or if you're creating them on your own in something like Photoshop or InDesign or any of the other programs that are out there. If you get those to the website, you can now display those in your digital sign. Down here on the lower left, you may want a combination of all three. You may want the flyer, the calendar of events for scrolling information in addition to the weather. So there's a variety of different ways that you can lay out the page. We started off with 4 custom content pages, and then we also have the 1 standard page. But how does this all work? It sounds great, probably sounds easier than most people think, but it is. Within our content management system, there's a lot of, I'm assuming there's a lot of MembersFirst clients that are on the call today, so the screenshot over here on the left is probably very familiar to you. You know, this is jumping into one of our calendar of events for Lobster Night. Now, we're a firm believer at MembersFirst that when you create the content once, you should be able to display that content in multiple areas. It should save you time, and time is so valuable today with the amount of communications that you need to present to your membership. So as you're creating this Lobster Night, and you're going to most likely have it live on the website on your member homepage or on your dining and social area, you can now also tag it to be in your digital sign, which basically means that you can create content for your website, and with one click of a button, you've now just populated the digital sign. You can choose which content lives on the digital sign and which doesn't. The same way that just below here, as you're building your weekly emails, hopefully everybody has already learned about our e-bulletin builder, but we will be having an upcoming webinar to go through how that works as well. But let's just take this one instance of the Lobster Night. Once we've created it, created our flyer, populated the website, with one click of the button, you're going to click on Member Home, Dine and Social, Digital Sign, and e-bulletin. Now you've taken that Lobster Night and you've published it to all of your different areas at the club. So step number 1, create the content for your website. Step number 2, tag the content, and that's it. Hardware requirements. This is probably the area that will be the most important for the club. Here at MembersFirst, we're just designing the page. We're designing the page so you know what it looks like. We're making sure that your branding is consistent with the website. We make sure that the branding is consistent with the other materials that you have floating around the clubhouse. However, once you get into doing digital signs, typically you want to make sure that the hardware is set up prior to that. Now, most clubs are starting to invest in these types of digital signs, so you're most likely having monitors that are being placed around the club. Now, those monitors, from what we've seen, all they need to be is connected to a computer. This could be whether it's wired, that monitor, whether it's a TV or just a large-scale monitor. If it's wired, it maybe was wired to a computer in the back office. That's great. Or if you don't have the luxury of having those monitors pre-wired, then you can actually buy one of these small little mini computers. This is an example of how small some computers can be nowadays, where you can actually just take one of these mini computers, and those can range anywhere from a couple $100, because all they need is access to the internet for this digital sign to work. So you could take one of these small little cubes and place it behind the TV, connect the TV to the computer, navigate to the page on your website, and boom, you have a digital sign. The one key requirement, though, for all of your monitors, you want to make sure that the resolution is high enough. You want to make sure that the flyers that you're creating will pop. You want to make sure that all of the details have the highest resolution as possible so that it's very clear when your members are viewing it. So, at a minimum, you want to make sure that the resolution for the monitor is able to host 1920 by 1080 resolution. That's the only requirement. All of the digital signs are built in responsive design, so no matter if the TV is a little bit larger or a little bit smaller, it will adjust to the screen. However, you need to make sure the resolution is high enough to have a clear enough picture. Once you have those 2 items, that's it. That's all you need. That's all you need for the digital sign to work. One key component that you'll want to make sure to keep in mind is that if you have a smart TV which can access the TV's web browser, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using that. The reason for it is that sometimes those connections can fall down, so we want to make sure that that as long as the computer that it's connected to behind the scenes, that's probably the safest bet. Okay. I'm assuming everybody wants to see what this looks like now. So let's jump in. I'm actually going to show you how it looks, and then we will edit it, and then we'll stay on the line for some additional questions. So what we're going to use today for the demo is we're actually going to use the club at Neptune Cove. I'm going to go ahead and click on Neptune Cove. I'm going to move this over to my main screen, and I'm actually going to log in as a hidden member. And then I'm going to navigate to the page that we've pre-designed for Neptune Cove as the digital sign. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when the digital sign is in action, you're going to have a lot of moving parts. So, for example, up here in the top, we've got the highlighted banner, which actually shows you, the date and the time. You'll also notice that I've got my standard club calendar of events over here on the left and the location. So I can see that happy hour is happening in the grill room tonight at 5 p.m., which is great. Now, we also have over here on the right-hand side is I've got what we call our insert highlights. So basically, this is the content that most likely already lives on your website. And we've got some section page images. So you've got the small little image that'll pop up over here, the name of what you're promoting, the date, in addition to some teaser text. You can see down here we have these radial buttons which will actually page through on a rotating basis so that as people are walking by, they will be able to see the different content that's labeled there. Now, this is the standard layout that we have. However, like I said, we also have 4 other additional layouts that we can use. Now, one question we often get is, does the digital sign have to have all of the content, or can we actually have multiple digital signs? For example, maybe you're a golf club, and in the pro shop, you want to have just golf events and golf information and golf photos on your digital sign. However, in the lobby of your clubhouse, you may want to have all of the information available. The answer is yes, you can have that information. You would most likely just need either 2 different layouts or 2 different section pages in order to tag the content. But you can have as many digital signs around the club. It all depends on how many monitors you have. Now, one of the things you'll notice here is that, keep in mind, I am on my computer, okay? So as you can see my taskbar down below, and you can also see that I'm using Google Chrome, so you can see all of my information up top here. However, all you need to do is hit F11, which will take you to full screen. We're going to hit F5 to refresh, and that's all you would do in order to have the full screen display for your digital sign. The other thing you'll want to keep in mind is one question that we get very often. How much content do we put on our digital sign? Well, it's customizable. Technically, you could put as much content as you want on the digital sign. However, you want to make sure that you yourself stand in front of the digital sign and make sure that you can read all the content in the amount of time it takes to rotate. For example, what I have here over on the left, I have a running calendar, but I'm only pulling in the next 15 days. You could pull in the next 60 days if you wanted to. However, over on the right-hand side, I've got flyers, I've got a little bit of paragraph text, and I've got 4 different pieces of rotating content. So you will want to make sure that the rotation speed, which can be configured with us during the design process to go as fast as you want or as slow as you want. But you want to make sure that depending on the content that you're listing, you want to make sure that you're giving your members enough time to be able to read that information. Our recommendation on the calendar is going to be anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks of calendar of events, and then probably anywhere from 4 to 7 highlights or photo galleries. That way you have some information to tease their interest, but not too much that they're not going to stand there and see it all. So that's what it actually looks like from the member standpoint. Now let's actually add a few different things. So what I'm actually going to do here, so I'm going to get out of full screen mode, and I'm actually going to go over and log in as an administrator. Okay, so I'm going to use my administrative credentials. I'm going to log out of the member that I'm currently logged in as, and I'm going to log in as myself. I am an administrator at the club, so I can impersonate any administrator, any member that I'd like. Once we're into the editable area of the website, I'm going to select my admin home, and I'm going to go to my inserts, and I'll show you one piece of content as to how you can update the site. Now, most of you who are MembersFirst clients that are on the line right now, this is probably fairly straightforward for you. And so one of the things that you would do, if we're just doing a section insert, I'm going to find my section called Digital Sign. That way I could filter all of the content to know only what items I have available on the site. On my digital sign. You will notice that I have a lot of active components here, but you can see my kids' summer camp is not active at this time. So I already have that promoted. I've already have it created. The great part about this is that I can set this to be effective, so I could have it start and expire, so your digital sign is updating the same way that your website does. All I'm going to do is make it active, double check my nav section, and I can see that it already lives on my digital sign, and then I'm going to hit save. Once I've done that, I can double check, get back over to my digital sign, and we will go to full screen to see what the member views, and you'll notice down here there's one additional insert that actually promotes the kids' summer camp. It's that simple. Once you have the content on your website, you're literally just tagging the section page called Digital Sign, and it populates your digital sign for you. So that's a sneak peek at the MembersFirst digital sign. What I'd love to do now is open up the webinar for any questions. As a reminder, everybody is still on mute, so I cannot hear the questions that you're asking. So you will want to write your questions in the panel within GoToWebinar. And I'll make sure to stay on for a couple minutes to answer any questions that we have coming from the group. Okay, so we've got a couple questions that are coming in here now. Okay, so this is a good question. Okay, so we've got one coming in here. So it looks like this club already has digital signage with another company at their club, and they're wondering if they can use the same monitors. Most likely you can. It depends on if those monitors that you purchased are proprietary to the software that you bought. Okay? If that's the case, you may need to check on any contractual agreements that you have with those components. But if the monitors that you already have in place are yours and you own them and they can be connected to a computer or the internet, then yes, you should most likely be able to use those same monitors with the MembersFirst digital sign. Great question. Looks like can you use, another question coming in, and this is, can you use a smart TV and connect via Chromecast? So yes, you can use a smart TV. I personally have one of those at my house. However, the internet connection through the smart TV browser is not always as reliable as connecting it to a computer. in my experience. Now, if you have a good connection, there's no reason that you can't use it. I just probably wouldn't recommend using the browser through your smart TV. However, it looks like this person is using a Chromecast, so it's just basically your Chromecast is connecting that from a computer and displaying it to the monitor. So if you have a Chromecast and you're projecting something from a different computer, then yes, you should be able to use that. However, we can also check it because we have the digital sign available on our demo site. So what we can do is basically before you invest in the MembersFirst digital sign, you would want to test out with our demo site, and you could just do a test run and project it through your Chromecast and see if it works. You might need to tweak it a little bit, but I don't see any issue with that. Okay, I've got another question coming in here. Can you use an iPad? The answer is yes. So you can use whether it's a monitor. Basically, you just need something, whether it's an iPad or a TV or a large computer monitor. All it needs to be able to do is connect to the internet. Now, again, with an iPad, you want to make sure that you most likely need to be connected to probably to a wireless connection. And what we would want to do if you were trying to use a tablet or an iPad is that we would want to make sure that the designers know the size of the screen that you're using, because with an iPad, it's going to be a much smaller monitor, so you need to design it a little bit differently. So to answer your question, yes, you most likely can use it, but it's going to be a smaller monitor. Okay. Got another question coming in here. What small computer do you recommend to use behind the monitor? It really depends. What I can do is, so in our office, we've got a small little HP, it's called an HP Cube. I'm assuming that there's probably a variety of different versions, but you really, in my mind, you kind of need whatever the lowest cost one is, because you want to have it be as small as possible, but the only power that you need for the computer is it needs to be able to access a browser. So you don't need a lot of memory, you don't need a lot of anything else, you just need to be able to access a browser. So we at the office have used some of the new HP Cubes, but you could certainly use whichever one you'd like. That goes off another question, what brand of monitor do you recommend? To be honest with you, you could use anything that's going to have a resolution that's 1980 by 2000. So you want to make sure that you have the highest resolution. But as far as the monitor goes, MembersFirst, we really don't have a preference. We've seen, any type of TV or any type of large monitor. You just want to make sure it's big enough. But the key is the resolution. Okay, this question comes up quite a bit. Are we going to be sending the PowerPoint presentation? Yes. So I will be sending out not only the presentation, because there are most likely some MembersFirst clients on here and some non-MembersFirst clients. So I will be sending out the copy of a recorded video in addition to the PowerPoint slides. However, for all of you who are MembersFirst clients, make sure that you keep an eye out on your admin homepage early next week. We'll be adding in both the webinar links for recordings, and we will also be putting the PowerPoint slides. It'll remain up there for a little bit of time, and then it will live within our Learning Center as well. Okay, let me make sure I can go through here. Okay, we've got a couple questions on cost for setup and maintenance. So I'll just kind of cover all of those at once. The cost of this, it's only a one-time setup cost. Okay, there are no monthly subscription fees for this service, mainly because it's running off of your website. So there is no additional subscription services or maintenance services. There's only the one-time design cost. The one-time design cost is $1,200. However, if you're a MembersFirst client, you can also apply your loyalty rewards balance or your customer appreciation program discount. So hopefully you guys have all gotten the information about how to use your loyalty rewards and the customer appreciation discount, and that can be used towards that $1,200 cost. Now, that's for one single layout. Now, you can have one single layout in multiple components. However, if you want to have a combination of different layouts, then what we would do is we would just need to know the amount of layouts that you have, because then we would just be designing accordingly. Okay. Okay, let's actually go through. I just want to make sure that we can answer as many questions here. Thank you again, everybody, for all the participation. I just want to go through and give everybody else a couple more minutes to put any questions into the webinar. This is a good one. This came up on our morning webinar as well. What is the implementation time? Implementation timing, typically for the design and setup, it's usually 3 to 4 weeks. However, that 3 to 4 weeks also includes the training. But if you're already a MembersFirst client, the training is super simple, because as long as you know how to check the box on the section page, you're good to go. That's literally all the setup and training it is once you have the page designed. Okay, so that 3 to 4 weeks for implementation time covers the design, setup, and implementation, and then we'll also make sure to jump on a phone call to train you and your team as to how to update your digital sign page. Got one more question coming in here. This one looks like in regards to promotional flyers. So can we add promotional flyers to the digital sign? And the answer is yes. So depending on the layout that you select for your digital sign, you will want to know how you actually want to display your flyers. So for example, if you're creating your flyers in the global template, the global flyer templates within MembersFirst, then those, of course, yes, will be able to be displayed. However, if you're also, maybe you're a club that is creating your flyers in something like Photoshop or InDesign or Canva or any other kind of kind of creative collaborative tools. Once you have those flyers, whether they're in a JPEG or a PDF format, whatever the case may be, all you need to do is get them into the website, and then you can apply those to different areas that then you can attach to the digital sign. So the short answer is yes. If you have flyers, you can add them to the website, add them to the digital sign, as long as they live in the website first. Great question. Okay, perfect. What I'll do is I will, it looks like those are all of the questions that we have in the webinar right now. However, I want to be able to, I'm going to stay on for another minute or so and answer any additional questions that come in. One key thing to keep in mind is that if you are interested in the digital sign, that's certainly fine. My email and phone number are listed here on the screen, so you can certainly reach out to me. Or if you are working with Dawn Taylor in the client development team, she would also be able to help you, in addition to any of our great client services managers. So if you are a current MembersFirst client, feel free to reach out to myself or Dawn or one of your dedicated client services managers. We'd be more than happy to walk through any questions that you have and talk to you a little bit more about the MembersFirst digital sign. Thanks again. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.